The FIFA World Cup, the greatest sporting event on the planet. Billions of people watching, the best teams in the world, the highest pressure, the biggest stakes. And yet, again and again and again, the World Cup has delivered moments that nobody saw coming. Moments that defied logic. Moments that broke hearts, shattered dreams, and left the entire football world completely speechless. Today, we are counting down the biggest upsets in World Cup history. The results that shocked the world. The matches that proved beyond any doubt that in football, anything is possible. And trust me, some of these will leave you absolutely stunned. Let us start the countdown. Coming in at number 10. The year is 2002. The location is South Korea and Japan. And the team about to cause chaos is Senegal. Senegal, a country playing in their very first ever World Cup. Their opponents in the opening match? France, the defending World Cup champions. The team that had won the 1998 World Cup on home soil. ID. A squad packed with world-class talent Zidane, Henry, Vieira, Desailly. France were not just favorites. France were considered by many to be the best team in the world at that moment. Nobody gave Senegal a single chance. And then Papa Bouba Diop scored. A scrappy, beautiful, unforgettable goal. Senegal 1, France 0. The final score. France, the defending champions, beaten by a team playing in their first ever World Cup match. The Senegalese players celebrated by dancing around the corner flag, throwing their shirts in the air. It was pure joy, pure disbelief, and it sent shockwaves through the entire tournament. France went on to be eliminated in the group stage without scoring a single goal. Meanwhile, Senegal reached the quarterfinals. One of the greatest stories in World Cup history, started by one of the greatest upsets. Number 9. Germany 2006. Australia versus Japan. Now this might not sound like a classic upset on the surface, but consider this. Japan were ranked significantly higher than Australia at that point. Japan had experience. Japan had already qualified for multiple World Cups. Australia were the underdogs, the team that had just barely qualified after a brutal playoff against Uruguay. Australia were losing 1-0 with just over 10 minutes to play. It looked finished. And then Tim Cahill came off the bench, and everything changed. 2 goals from Cahill in 3 minutes. Then a third from John Aloisi. Australia won 3-1. The comeback was so fast, so dramatic, so unexpected that fans at home were still processing the first goal when the third one went in. It was the moment Australia announced themselves to the world. And for Japanese football fans, it remains one of the most painful memories in their history. Number 8. World Cup 1950. England versus the United States of America. This one requires context. In 1950, England were considered by many to be the greatest football nation on earth. They were the inventors of the game. They had never entered a World Cup before because they simply did not feel they needed to prove themselves. This was their first appearance, and they were expected to win it. Their opponents were the United States, a team of part-time players, a team that included a dishwasher, a postman, and a teacher. A team that had no professional football culture whatsoever. And yet, Joe Gaetjen scored in the 37th minute. The United States won 1-0. England, the supposed masters of football, beaten by a team of amateurs. The result was so shocking that when the scoreline was telegraphed back to newspapers in England, many editors refused to publish it. They thought it was a typo. They assumed someone had made an error. Surely it was England 1. USA 0, not the other way around. It was not a typo, it was one of the biggest upsets in sporting history. Number 7. South Africa 2010, Switzerland versus Spain. Spain in 2010 were arguably the greatest international team ever assembled. They were the reigning European champions. They had Xavi, Iniesta, Villa, Torres, Puyol, Casillas. They played a style of football that nobody had ever seen before, tiki-taka at its absolute peak. Spain were not just favorites for the tournament. Most people expected them to win every single match comfortably. Then, in their very first group game, Switzerland held them. And not just held them, Switzerland actually won. Gelson Fernandez scored the only goal of the match. Spain had more possession. Spain had more shots. Spain dominated in every statistical category, and they lost. The football world could not believe it. Spain being beaten by Switzerland in the group stage? Impossible. Of course, Spain went on to win the entire tournament without losing another match. They lifted the World Cup trophy for the first time in their history. But that opening result against Switzerland remains one of the most stunning upsets in World Cup group stage history. Even the best team in the world can have a bad day, and the World Cup will always be there to punish you for it. Number 6. Germany, 1978. Argentina versus Italy. Wait, this is not about Argentina losing. This is actually about Italy suffering one of their most embarrassing World Cup moments. Italy in 1978 were a powerhouse, organized, disciplined, defensively brilliant. They were one of the most respected teams in the tournament. They faced an Argentina side that was good, but not yet the force they would become. And Italy, playing cautiously and safely, as they always did, were beaten. Argentina won convincingly. Italy were shocked. The Italian media were furious. The manager came under enormous pressure. But what made this so stunning was not just the result, it was the manner of it. Italy had been outplayed, completely outplayed, by a team they expected to handle with ease. The upset sent a message to the entire tournament: nobody was safe, not even Italy. Number 5. Brazil 1950. Uruguay versus Brazil, the Maracanazo. If you want to talk about upsets that broke an entire nation, this is it. This is the ultimate. This is the match that still haunts Brazil over 70 years later. The setting was the Maracana Stadium in Rio de Janeiro. Brazil were hosting the World Cup. 200,000 people, the largest crowd ever to watch a football match, packed into that ground. Brazil needed only a draw to win the World Cup. Uruguay needed to win. Brazil had been brilliant throughout the tournament, scoring goals for fun, playing beautiful attacking football. The whole country was already celebrating before the match even started. Newspapers had already printed special editions congratulating Brazil as world champions. Songs had been written, parties were planned. And then Uruguay won, 2-1. Alcides Gigia scored the winning goal and later famously said there were only 3 people who ever silenced the Maracana, Frank Sinatra, the Pope, and him. The silence that fell over that stadium was described by witnesses as the most devastating sound they had ever heard. Players cried on the pitch. Fans cried in the stands. The Brazilian goalkeeper, Moacir Barbosa, was blamed by his own country for the rest of his life. Never forgiven, never allowed to forget. The Maracanazo, the greatest upset in World Cup history at that time. A wound that never fully healed. Number 4. Spain, 2010. North Korea versus Portugal? No, let us talk about something even bigger from the same tournament. Actually, let us jump to the match that genuinely shocked the entire world in the modern era. Germany 2014. Germany versus Brazil, the Mineirazo. Wait, this is not an upset in the traditional sense. Germany were strong, but Brazil on home soil in a World Cup semi-final against Germany? Brazil were the hosts. Brazil had Neymar until he got injured. Brazil had the crowd. Brazil had the pressure of an entire nation behind them. And Germany destroyed them 7-1. 7 goals. 1. The host nation on home soil in a semi-final. 7-1. Muller scored twice in the first 12 minutes, then close. Then 3 more goals in 6 minutes during the second half. Brazil were frozen. They could not move. They could not think. Their players stood on the pitch, looking like they could not comprehend what was happening. And neither could the watching world. The Brazilian fans in the stadium were crying. Not with sadness at first, with shock. Pure, total, paralyzing shock. Nothing in football had ever looked like this. A home nation, one of the greatest football countries in history, being torn apart in a World Cup semi-final by one of the most clinical performances ever seen. The Minerazo. 7 goals, 1 match, forever burned into the memory of every football fan on earth. Number 3. South Africa, 2010. Spain, 2010. Actually, let us go back further for number 3. France, 2002. Senegal, we already covered. But the bigger upset of that tournament, South Korea reaching the semifinals. South Korea in 2002 were co-hosting the tournament. Nobody expected them to do anything. They were a decent Asian team, but against the elite European and South American sides, nobody gave them a chance. They beat Spain, they beat Italy, they beat Portugal. 3 giants of world football, one after another, all gone, all beaten or eliminated because of South Korea. The performances were electric. The crowds in South Korea were unlike anything the World Cup had ever seen. An entire nation in absolute frenzy. Red shirts everywhere. Noise and passion at levels that had never been experienced before. Some controversial refereeing decisions played a role, and the debate still continues today. But what cannot be debated is the impact. South Korea in the semi-finals of the World Cup, a result that nobody, absolutely nobody, had predicted. One of the most remarkable runs in the history of the tournament. Number 2, Qatar, 2022. Saudi Arabia versus Argentina. Argentina went into the 2022 World Cup as one of the hottest favorites in years. They had Lionel Messi playing what everyone knew was his last realistic chance to win the World Cup. They had been unbeaten for 36 matches. They had won the Copa America. They were organized, confident, and hungry. Saudi Arabia were ranked 51st in the world. They were given no chance, 0. The match was considered a formality, a warm-up for Argentina before the serious games began. Messi scored early. Argentina were ahead. Everything was going to plan. And then Saudi Arabia turned off the offside trap. And everything changed. Saleh Al-Shehri equalized. And then, in one of the most electric moments in recent World Cup history, Salem Al-Dawsari scored a goal of absolute stunning quality. A curling, dipping, perfectly placed shot into the top corner. Saudi Arabia 2, Argentina 1. Final score. The entire stadium erupted. Saudi Arabia declared a national holiday. Their players celebrated like they had won the World Cup itself. And, in a way, for them, it felt like they had. Argentina recovered and went on to win the whole tournament, giving Messi his long-awaited World Cup trophy. But that single defeat to Saudi Arabia will live forever as one of the most shocking results in World Cup history. And number 1, the greatest upset of them all. The match that started everything. The match that proved for the very first time that the World Cup was not just for the giants. West Germany, 1954. Hungary versus West Germany, the miracle of Bern. Hungary in 1954 were not just a good team. They were considered the greatest team ever assembled in football history up to that point. They had not lost a match in 4 years. They had beaten England 6-3 London, the first time England had ever been beaten at home by a foreign team. They had Ferenc Puskás, arguably the best player on the planet. They had scored over 25 goals in the tournament already. West Germany had already lost to Hungary in the group stage heavily, 8-3. It was not even close. And yet in the final, in the pouring rain in Bern, West Germany came back from 2-0 down to win 3-2. The world could not believe it. Hungary, the greatest team of their generation, beaten in a final by a team they had already destroyed earlier in the same tournament. The miracle of Bern, the original World Cup upset, the match that told the world the beautiful, painful, glorious truth about football. No lead is safe. No team is unbeatable. No result is guaranteed. And that is why we love this game. That is why billions of people around the world stop everything when the World Cup begins. Because on any given day, in any given match, the impossible can happen. The World Cup does not care about rankings. It does not care about history or reputation or expectation. It only cares about what happens on the pitch, on that day, in those 90 minutes. And that is the most beautiful thing about football. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe to The Final Whistle for more World Cup content. Drop a comment below which upset shocked you the most. Let the debate begin. See you in the next one.